Matt Ryan went to Indy. Then, like an hour later, the Falcons signed Marcus Mariota, and the musical chairs game for quarterbacks is coming to an end. Let's talk about the remaining destinations for Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, are there any?
Nope.
Yikes.
Nope.
Well, let's go through it. Let's go through it systematically. Like, and Carolina can't do it, right?
Grant, who was talking about this on Friday?
I might have been you. Might have been
us, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the fact that it was Indianapolis or bust.
Yeah, and this is the exact point I was talking about. I mean, I think a lot of people are familiar because I've been tweeting about this daily, especially now that I'm on spring break. I just have way too much time on my hands to just endlessly tweet. It can be pretty annoying, I'm sure, for a lot of you guys that follow me. So I appreciate you putting up with it. But this was always the fear, and this is always why there had to be an urgency to trade Garoppolo. And you and I actually talked about it on the phone this morning when we were talking about the show, and we were talking about how things could heat up. And then you said, where would Atlanta go at quarterback? And we both immediately agreed it would be Mariota. I tweeted, Mariota.
That like 10 seconds, right?
Yeah, the Arthur Smith connection. And lo and behold, 2 minutes after the Ryan trade gets announced, Falcons signed Marcus Mariota to a two-year deal. And it's because Garoppolo just doesn't make sense for them. He doesn't make sense for a lot of teams. I think that the Diana Rossini report right after the Ryan trade went down is interesting because I think there is some validity to the shoulder surgery holding back Garoppolo's value. But to me, that's the 49ers doing a little damage control of that's why we couldn't trade him till now. His shoulder has been a big setback because here's the thing. And I want to get this point off.
People are concerned that he won't be able to take part in the full offseason with his first
exactly. And I want to get this point across before we even get into the destinations. If Matt Ryan had a shoulder injury, do you think that Indianapolis still pulls the trigger? Because I think they do. If Deshaun Watson has a shoulder injury, do you think Cleveland still hands out the contract? I think they do, especially when it's an injury that everybody thinks he can have a full recovery from and they think he'll be ready by training camp. I think it has more to do with the player's value. If the player is highly valued, you will compensate. Heck, the Niners, what did they do when they valued Quan Alexander, who was coming off the ACL? They said he was going to make a full recovery by training camp. Hey, we're going to go all in for him. They did this. They said the same thing. They felt Dee Ford's medical injury checked out. They did the same thing with Reuben Foster when they felt his shoulder would be okay, even though he didn't participate in that entire offseason run-up. So if you feel the player is good, the medical, your doctors are always feeling good about the medical. So I wanted to get that across. The second part of this is there's no destination for Jimmy Garoppolo. And here's why Carolina is not a destination, okay? They are going to pay Sam Darnold $18 million fully guaranteed no matter what next year. His contract is basically
a third-round pick this year either.
Right. And his contract is basically a 1-year, $18 million contract. It makes absolutely no sense for them to give up whatever day 3, day 2 pick to get Garoppolo, pay $45 million on the quarterback position for a year to have no long-term solution at quarterback. The best possible option if Carolina and Matt Rule and all of them want to get a quarterback this year is they have a top 10 pick, go draft one. So I don't think that's an option. Seattle, to me, Seattle's always been in on the Baker Mayfield thing. Seattle, Baker Mayfield has been reported from day one. It's actually been reported that Baker wanted the Colts, but Seattle wants Baker. So to me, that's a match.
Seattle knows Jimmy Garoppolo too well to actually want him. Like any team that would want him have to not know him.
Well, I mean, the Niners wouldn't they not want to trade him within division because he's a little bit of a threat? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you know,
I don't want. Before I go too far, before I get a little unfiltered talking about Fred Warner, maybe should put an incentive clause for interceptions on his contract or something like that. If that was the case, before I go there, let's just continue talking about it. So Seattle's not a destination, right? New Orleans, we thought New Orleans was going to be in on it. Then Tom Pelissero reported like a week ago, if it's not Watson, it will be Jameis Winston. Watson goes out. Now they sign Jameis Winston. So there's no destination here for Jimmy Garoppolo. We can continue to wait this out.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to exhaust.
They already said that they're moving forward with Davis Mills this year.
Okay. All right. So what does that mean?
There is no. What it means for the Niners is that I mean, there's two ways this has to happen. They got to just muster up their pride and say, you know what, we messed up. It's okay. We'll blame it on the shoulder. We'll blame it on Watson. Nobody knew that he was going to meet with the grand jury on Friday. We had no clue. It just showed up all of a sudden, and teams became interested. We had no clue he would do that, and he was going to plead the fifth. So we'll blame it on that. We had no clue Matt Ryan would become available. We had no clue Baker would become available. You can blame it on a variety of different things. Whether people buy it or not, it's PR control, and you cut your losses, or you don't muster up your pride and just say, okay, we're going to make Jimmy Garoppolo just play out his contract. We've been successful when he's healthy, right? The NFC Championship game 1 year, Super Bowl 1 year, 5-0 in 2017. And when he plays, we win. So we're going to bring him back for 1 more year. You know, we felt we never wanted to trade him. All those reports were bogus. We thought it was a 1 year plan. Then Jimmy just played so well that he took us to the NFC Championship game that it didn't become a 1 year plan. It became a 2 year plan because we think we can go win a Super Bowl. I don't know, some PR BS that you can just put out like this.
But hold on,
bring
this
him
real
back
quick.
And have him
with the unintended consequence of this is that a lot of people are going to say, see, they don't believe in Trey Lance. They don't think Trey Lance is ready.
Yeah.
Bringing back Jimmy again, what does that say about Trey Lance? I mean, you already know.
Absolutely, 100%. It does say something.
Yep.
But they played themselves in this situation. They have 2 options. To me, option 1 is what I would take. Option 1 is what you would take. Option 1 is what a lot of people would take. And it's interesting because I know this is a point that you've brought up. This is a point that Ben Meyerson recently brought up on Spaces. I've brought it up in the past, but I feel like, you guys have been a little more aggressive in talking about it, is that the Niners are in a Super Bowl window, right? And here's what people don't understand, right? In 2 years, like in terms of the NFC Championship last year, here's what they did miss out on by holding on to both of these quarterbacks. You've talked about it especially, like you didn't give either quarterback the best shot to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
They've lost $50 million that could have been rolled over 2 years in cap space. If they went in all in from Trey Lance the moment he drafted, $50 million, $50 million of cap space. That's what would happen if they got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. The other thing they lost out on is giving Jimmy Garoppolo the best opportunity to win the Super Bowl, right? Because a first-round pick would have helped out this roster a lot.
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons, who was drafted 12th overall, would have been available. To me, Micah Parsons was one of the best defensive players in football. He could play on the other side of Fred Warner as a run and hit, fast will linebacker, which is what Reuben Foster, what they wanted him to be, and what Quan Alexander they wanted to be. But he can also be the secondary edge rusher next to Nick Bosa that they've been missing this entire time.
Both camps have a grievance. Jimmy camp, the Trey camp can both say, "Hey, you didn't give either one a chance," and I agree with that.
And so there's 2 different. Do I think Micah Parsons would have made an impact in making the Niners better last year? 1,000,000%. You best believe I would have. I would think. Yes. Do I think the Niners would have used $50 million shrewdly to give Trey Lance an even better opportunity to have a better roster? Grant doesn't believe it, but hell yeah, I do. And that's where this conversation becomes really annoying, right? Because they sold it as, we want to recoup Trey Lance draft capital for Jimmy Garoppolo. We just went over that there's no destinations for Jimmy Garoppolo. Here's the biggest slap in the face, right? The reported asking price, Albright was all over it early, was 2.2s for Garoppolo. That's what they were looking for right after the 2.3s for Carson Wentz. Do you know Matt Ryan's dead cap for Atlanta next year?
No.
Well, it's north of 25. It's $24 million, I think. It's a lot of money. That's his dead cap today for the Atlanta Falcons while he's a member of the Indianapolis Colts. Someone check me on the number. I don't know the exact number. Matt Ryan's a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo. He carries that much of a dead cap for Atlanta, though he's somewhat actually reasonably cheap for Indianapolis. And he only went for a 3rd-round pick. That tells you that there would have never been value of 2.2s for Jimmy Garoppolo. Middlecoff's report that a 2nd-round pick was on the table. Are you kidding me? Nobody confirmed it, so who knows? But if it was on the table, then Florio being a jerk and saying 2.2s is John Lynch saying the offer on the table this morning. Feels to me like he knew the Matt Ryan news was going down and he wanted to really just punch the Niners in the face like, you screwed the pooch on this. And that's what I think he did. But the point is, this entire situation has been mismanaged. It's been mishandled. If Matt Ryan was going for a 3rd and Trey Lance is at what they traded for Trey Lance was 3 1s and a 3, there was no way they were ever going to recap even half the capital that they traded for Trey Lance from Jimmy Garoppolo. This is, I mean, I would love to be positive about this situation. I'd love to be, measured, reasonable, but I've been talking about this for 2 weeks, that this could be the situation. Those who've heard me on Twitter Spaces, since it was Atlanta that was interested, all of that, I've been talking about the fact that this could be a possibility. This is a game of musical chairs and the Niners could be left without a seat. And here we are.
Look, I don't know all the details, and we got to go on to other things, but Jed needs to investigate what happened here, because someone should get fired for this. This is a huge mess up. Like, you waited to get more for Garoppolo, which made it so you couldn't use cap space that you needed. And the fact that you didn't get cap space meant that you needed the draft picks even more. It created this loop. We can't use the cap space. We need draft picks. Now we really need draft picks because we're not going to spend in free agency. And you got no cap space, no draft picks. Who's getting fired? I don't know. My mind goes to the general manager, but I don't know how the front office works in the Ford. I don't know if John Lynch is in charge of anything, but he's the freaking general manager. I don't know, man. Someone needs to get fired for this, and that's where I'm going.
And here's the other aspect of it, right? Because there is, I like the Niners. Niners front office has culpability. They also, got hurt by the fact that Don Yee and Jimmy Garoppolo delayed the surgery so much. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So there's culpability in both parties. But here's the thing that I don't want to hear: that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have value. Because I don't think that's the case. He is one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the NFL. He is a starting level quarterback. Don't tell me that there isn't a price that teams would have paid for to get Jimmy Garoppolo to start for them for a year when Jared Goff got traded 2 off seasons ago. Carson Wentz managed to find a landing spot in 2 straight off seasons, one for a first-round pick and a third-round pick, and then once for 2 threes. There is an asking price that would have gotten Jimmy Garoppolo traded. The Niners clearly don't value Jimmy Garoppolo the same way other teams do. This is, again, conjecture, speculation, but it's also educated conjecture and speculation, because I do believe that if Pittsburgh felt like the Niners asked for something reasonable for Garoppolo, I think Garoppolo would be in Pittsburgh over Trubisky. I think they called their bluff and said, no, we're not going to give up that much for Garoppolo. It's a 1-year plan at quarterback, no matter who it is. We'll go cheaper with Trubisky. He's worse, but whatever. He's not our future anyway. We're a run the football, play defense team primarily. Why do we need to invest that much into the quarterback position when we're still going to be looking for a guy of the future? And so again, it comes down to a question that I've been asking for 2 straight weeks. Do the Niners value Jimmy Garoppolo? Because I think we all agree there's some value to Garoppolo. Whether you view it as a 7th round pick, whether you view it as a 1st round pick, that's still value. There's some value that he is worth. The Niners clearly do not see his worth the same way as other teams. And it comes down to
let me ask you, do you think they could have got a 3rd round pick from Indianapolis 2 weeks ago from Jimmy Garoppolo?
Maybe, yeah. Why not?
I mean, no one knew Matt Ryan was going to be available 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
3rd round pick. The fact that they didn't get that and they're probably going to settle for less, man, I don't know, Jed. Figure out who's responsible for that. Someone's got to go.
And I actually disagree on the fireable part. I don't know if it's fireable, but I do think it's a little bit of you take a stern look at what they're doing and you see how this season plays out and you see how this entire situation affects it.
You're the first one to be like, what does John do here, man? He's supposed to be the face guy, the guy who puts a good spin on everything. He doesn't even do that. I'm sorry. His performance needs to be evaluated by the franchise.
Here's my thing, Grant. Here's my thing, and where I'll push back on the firing thing is who replaces him, because right now there's nobody to replace it. And you can say Adam Peters, and somebody brought this up in Spaces when I was listening earlier, and I was just chilling, going for a walk and all that. And you could say Adam Peters, but isn't Adam Peters part of the front office that botched this entire thing? What's to say that?
It's true. So, Jed, that's what I'm saying. Jed, you got to get to the bottom of this, man. You got to find out who's been holding on to Jimmy Garoppolo and get that guy out the building. I assume it's John, but I don't know. Jed, you can find out.